Ken Whiting here, and in this video we're talking about packrafts. Whether you're completely new to packrafting and just trying to figure out, is this the right thing for me, or you're getting started, or maybe you've already started packrafting and just want more information. That's what this video is about, and so let's dive right into it, starting with the first question is why? Why packrafts? There's so many different types of paddle crafts out there. Why has this new type of paddle craft gained popularity? Packrafts were developed to provide an ultra lightweight and highly portable paddle craft for people to be able to go into the backcountry with, to access more remote waterways, whether it's lakes or rivers. And that's why packrafts are so small and light. I mean, they go from around 5 pounds, and that's a packraft that's designed for flat water. You have, slightly heavier and more robust models that are designed for running whitewater rivers. But ultimately, the real benefit of a packraft is that it's highly portable, ultra light, and it lets you access the waterways in the backcountry. That's the big benefit over other inflatable or portable kayaks. The downside of packrafts is that they're compared to other inflatable paddlecraft, like inflatable kayaks, they're slow. They're slow and they tend to be not as durable. Now let's talk about packrafts themselves a bit. And they're, to simplify things, there are really 3 styles of packrafts. You have a style that is commonly referred to as a bucket boat, which is basically a packraft that if a wave splashes over or if it rains or whatever, that water is in the packraft. It's not going anywhere. You need to bail it out. The next type of packraft or style of packraft is a self-bailing packraft. And self-bailing packrafts have an inflatable floor and holes on the bottom of the packraft so that when water comes into the boat, the inflatable floor floats to the surface, pushes the water off the sides, and it drains out the holes. The third style of packraft is a packraft that is designed to use a skirt, much like a whitewater kayak. It's designed to keep water out of the packraft entirely. And not surprisingly, that style of packraft is designed not exclusively for whitewater, but for a heavy whitewater use. You can take on some really challenging whitewater with a packraft like that, whereas a self-bailing style of packraft is a bit more of an all-around packraft designed for flat water, but also can handle whitewater up to class 3. So now let's talk about the materials that packrafts are made of. And you have 2 primary materials. You have PVC and you have TPU coated nylon. Let's start with PVC. PVC has been around for ages. A lot of whitewater rafts used to be made with PVC, and some still are. PVC is economical. It's the cheaper material, and it's very durable. The downside of PVC is that it's heavier and it's bulkier. It's not nearly as compact as TPU coated nylon. In fact, with the key benefits of packrafts being that they're ultralight and highly portable, PVC packrafts actually move into the realm of inflatable kayaks because they get into that weight and that size of that bulky when they're rolled up. And so more and more packrafts are TPU coated nylon and fewer PVC, because with PVC packrafts, you have to question, hey, maybe there is an inflatable kayak that's actually a better choice for me. Now, TPU coated nylon, it's lighter and it's thinner, so it's much more compact. The downside is it's less durable than PVC and it's more expensive. But it is more environmentally friendly, which is another reason why there's been a trend towards using TPU coated nylon. So you understand a bit more, what is TPU coated nylon? Really, you have nylon, your material, and then you have this, thermoplastic polyurethane, I think is what TPU is. It's a membrane that is bonded to that material, to that nylon, and it's waterproof and highly durable, protective this protective layer. Sometimes some boats have dual TPU coated and some are single TPU coated. Just have that coating on the outside where you're getting the wear and most of the wear and tear, but other boats have a layer of the TPU coating on the inside as well. And the benefit of that is if you get the wear and tear on the outside, maybe a deep scratch, maybe just over time, just abrasion, it can create a leak. Whereas if you have that scratch or abrasion on the outside that compromises the outer TPU coating, if you have a coating on the inside, it's basically like a backup. It's still, you're not going to have a leak. There's a quick rundown of PVC versus TPU. The other thing to know about TPU coated nylon is that there's a variety of thicknesses. It comes from around 210 denier nylon, which is the thickness or of the nylon really, up to 840 thread denier nylon. Obviously, the larger the number, the thicker the nylon, and so the more durable it is, but the heavier it is. That's the trade-off. A really good example of the impact of the materials and the weight is the two packrafts that I tested this year, the Alpaca Expedition and the NRS Neutron. The Alpaca Expedition used a 210 denier nylon for the main body of the packraft and a single coating. The floor was an 840 denier nylon dual coated. The obvious idea there is, hey, the floor is taking the most abuse. Let's make sure it's as robust as possible. But the body of this thing, hey, it's not going to take nearly as much abuse. Let's save as much weight as possible. Let's use the lightest nylon and only coat it on one side, the outside. Whereas the NRS Neutron had the same floor, 840 denier nylon, coated on both sides, but the main body of the packraft was twice the Alpaca's, 420 denier nylon, and TPU coated on both sides. Their idea was it's going to be heavier, but it's going to be a much more durable boat overall if we give it a heavier nylon on the main body and coat it on both sides. So NRS Neutron, more durable. The Alpaca Expedition, lighter and more compact. The end result is the Alpaca Expedition was 8.4 pounds. The NRS Neutron is 12.2 pounds. So the NRS Neutron was 50% heavier for a more durable and robust build. And so that's the kind of impact that the materials have on the weight of a product. So now let's change gears altogether and talk about paddles. The paddles you use for packrafts. Now, as a general rule with paddles, the wider the boat you're using and the higher you're sitting off the water, the longer the paddle you need. And that's why fishing kayaks, which are wide and you're sitting up really high, a lot of them are on these like stadium style seats, you need long paddles for those. Whereas whitewater boats where you're sitting really low and the boats are narrow, you need pretty short paddles. With packrafts, they're wide. These are wide boats, and that's why they're so stable. But you're sitting quite low in the water, and so it's kind of in between. I would say the range you should be looking at is around 215 centimeters to 225 centimeters. This is obviously very much ballpark. If you're doing more whitewater, you probably want to be at the lower end of that spectrum. If you're doing just flat water, you probably want to be at the longer end of the paddle length there. Now let's talk really quickly about packrafting safety. First and foremost, it doesn't matter if you're packrafting, kayaking, canoeing, stand-up paddling, whatever. When you're on the water, wear a PFD. You know, I've done a video about that before where a buddy of mine taught me that PFD doesn't stand for personal flotation device, although it does. It actually stands for pretty frickin' dumb not to be wearing it, and it is. So wear your PFD anytime you're on the water. Specific to packrafts, something to note is that most quality inflatable kayaks have 3 air chambers in them. It's not a single air chamber, and the reason for that is if you get a puncture in one of those chambers, well, you still have 2 chambers. Theoretically, 2/3 of your boat is still inflated. That means you can limp to shore and deal with it there. With a packraft, you have one chamber. And so if that one chamber is compromised, you're out of luck. You're not going anywhere until you repair that chamber. And so that's why it's really important that you always bring a repair kit, because you can't limp to shore, limp home with a packraft that is compromised. Now, one way a packraft can get compromised, and there's a good chance it won't be repairable, is if it explodes. You overinflate it. Packrafts are not designed to be inflated nice and hard and rigid. Most TPU coated nylon packrafts are designed to be inflated to around 1 to 1.5 psi. That's enough so you can still squeeze the sides a little bit. It's pretty easy to pump it up to that firmness, but what's hard is to maintain that level throughout the day, because in large part because of the sun. If you leave that packraft out in the sun, you may have pumped it up to 1.5 psi, but with the heat, the pressure is going to change dramatically. It's going to go up dramatically. And so you have to be aware of that and monitor that on hot, sunny days on an ongoing basis. Where the biggest problems tend to happen is not when you're on the water, because the coolness of the water tends to keep the boat within the original range. It's when you take breaks. Maybe you stop on shore and go for a lunch break or whatever. When you stop for a break, if you're going to leave the boat for any period of time, a couple things to do. Leave it in the shade if you can. If you can't leave it in the shade, leave it in the water. Maybe tie it to something on shore so that it gets that coolness. Yeah, even better, if you're taking off your life jacket, drape your life jacket over the tubes so that there's less exposure to the direct sun. Every so often, come down and splash that boat with water to cool it down, and even let some air out. I mean, if it was cooler in the morning when you filled that boat up, it only makes sense to let some air out during the day to compensate for the added pressure from the heat. It's a good idea to bring the inflation bag on your trip so that when you do start messing around, if you do let out a little bit too much, that you can put some back in. Now, one of the coolest things about packrafts is that it offers the opportunity to use the inside of the boat as gear storage, which is amazing for multi-day trips. And a lot of packrafts will have standard or as an option tie zip closures, big zippers on the boat that open the boat right up and let you put gear inside the boat. Now, if you're going to do this, a couple of things that you need to know about tie zip closures. For one, they are the most sensitive parts of the boat. They have to be treated very well. Sand is a killer. Sand and dirt are killers for the zipper system, as is just time, sun, drying out. They have a treatment you're supposed to put on it on a regular basis, and do it. Put that treatment on. It'll make it so much easier to use the zipper, but also make it last that much longer. Treat the zipper like it's your best friend, because it is. Because if that zipper fails, depending on where you are, it can be a major problem. I mean, there's no paddling anymore if that zipper fails. The boat is completely compromised. I feel like I'm maybe making that more of a concern than it should be, but no, it should be a big concern. Take care of your tie zip closure. When you're using the inside of the boat for gear, like I always say, it doesn't matter if it's inside a sea kayak or inside a packraft, assume that anything that's inside is going to get wet. So even though theoretically it shouldn't, assume it is. And so put stuff in dry bags inside the packraft. Now, most packrafts that are designed to use the interior for storage, they'll have some type of attachment points inside the boat for you to clip gear. And the idea there is to attach stuff so that that gear, if you're going through rough water, isn't going to be sliding around the boat. And that makes a big difference. Tie gear in the best you can to avoid gear from sliding all over the place. When putting gear in the boat, if you're going to have more weight in one side of the boat, front or back, have more weight in the back of the boat. Ideally, you want it to be even Steven throughout. But if not, have more weight in the back of the boat. That'll keep the front of the boat up when you're paddling, and you'll be plowing less water as you're paddling forward. Makes a big difference in flat water and in white water. But if you have too much weight in the back, you're dragging the back end too. So you really do want it to be as balanced a load as possible inside the boat. One last little tip that I would give is if you're putting anything hard inside the boat, think about wrapping it in something soft like clothes or whatever, something a little padded. If you do hit a rock and there's something hard inside the boat, it's just not going to be the same give that would be if there's some softness there, and that can hurt the boat more than if it's something padded on the inside. Now let's talk about paddling in current or whitewater in a packraft. In general, paddling in whitewater beyond class 1, which is basically just moving water, is a bad idea without some type of taking some type of instruction beforehand and learning about moving water and whitewater, because whitewater is one of those things where things can go wrong really quickly, and things can become serious really quickly. And understanding what is actually going on with whitewater, it's not just this mess of waves and frothy water, goes a long way towards making smart decisions and not getting in trouble. When you're paddling in whitewater with a packraft, it really helps if your packraft has a quality, a performance backband, something that provides good support, not just an inflatable support that's designed for lounging, a good backband, as well as thigh hooks. Thigh hooks, they don't need to be high performance thigh hooks, but something that your knees slip under that gives you more control over the boat. And when the boat is doing some bucking, it's going to hold you, attach you to the boat. With thigh hooks, the boat and you will feel more like when you're wearing a pair of trail runners, versus if you don't have thigh hooks, it's more like you're wearing flip-flops and you're really not attached to that platform. And so when it's bucking around, you're pretty loose, loosey-goosey on there. And so thigh hooks really help make you feel as one with the boat and give you a lot more control. They're also, some people are concerned about, hey, if I put my knees under these thigh hooks, can I get trapped if I flip? Very easy to get out of as I learned on one of my gear testings, which actually brings us to the idea of rolling a packraft. Can you roll a packraft? Yes, you can roll a packraft, but it's not easy. The wider a boat is, the more difficult it is to roll. And packrafts are wide, so they're not easy to roll. And so you have to have good technique in order to roll them. If you try to muscle it, you could even hurt yourself. Even with good technique, you can hurt yourself if you get sloppy. And that's why when I was testing the Alpaca Expedition in some real rough conditions, I made the decision before I even started paddling that if I flip, I'm not even going to try to roll. I'm going to just swim. I've been dealing with a shoulder issue, and the last thing I wanted to do was try rolling this big, wide kayak and do more damage. So yes, you can roll them, but you need good technique. Learn it first with a whitewater kayak. Now, how far in whitewater can packrafts actually go? Well, the packrafts that have decks and are designed to be used with a skirt, they're designed to handle some really challenging whitewater. I'd say up to class 4. If you have the skills, up to class 4 whitewater. They're not as high performance as a real whitewater kayak. You just don't have the edge control that you have in a whitewater kayak. But you have incredible stability, incredible maneuverability, and they're very forgiving. So you can do up to class 4 whitewater, absolutely. Self-bailing packrafts, the furthest you can safely go is class 3 whitewater, and not overly technical, because if you hit a big wave and the water fills your boat, yes, it's going to drain, but until it drains, you're going to have a couple of hundred extra pounds of weight in this boat, and you are not going to be maneuverable. You're not going to be in a position to set up for the next move that you need to do, if there is a next move. And that's why self-bailing boats are not great for technical, challenging whitewater, but they are great for fun, class 1, 2, and even class 3 whitewater. Bucket boats, boats that don't have any type of draining, well, they're not really good for anything beyond class 1 whitewater. So there you have it, a bit of a brain dump of information about packrafts. I hope that answers some of the questions that you have. If you have more questions, leave them down below. I've been paddling for 35 years, but I've only been packrafting for a year, and so I'm still learning lots about them. I'm looking forward to doing more packrafting trips because I had an absolute blast doing my first multi-day this summer. I'll leave a link in the description box down below to that full packrafting adventure, as well as to the 2 reviews I did, the NRS Neutron and the Alpaca Expedition. If you're interested in either of those kayaks, basically the reviews to let you know if they're the right packraft for you. I've also done another video about choosing, is the packraft the right choice? Canoe versus kayak versus stand-up paddleboard versus packraft, which should you choose? Again, I'll leave a link in the description box to that. Otherwise, leave a comment down below. Let me know any tips that any experienced packrafters out there has to share with the community, and give the video a thumbs up if you like it. Please do. That really does help. Subscribe to Paddle TV if you haven't. I don't have a lot of packraft content on Paddle TV, but I got a lot more coming. I really, really have been enjoying packrafting. But you can be sure there's lots of all sorts of paddling tips, gear reviews, and adventures coming your way.